Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Criterion Watch here at Indie Film Cafe. I'm your old pal, the Moo Cow, aka Paul A. Presenza, and I'm joined by
Jonathan A. Moody, your co-host.
And together we are joined by
Mr. Joe.
Yay! All right.
Your new name every time.
Of course.
We'll come up with a new one each time. I don't know. We'll see.
And so this time we are doing a movie as an honor of Gene Hackman passing away. He's one of my favorite actors. I imagine it's the same for you guys.
Well, we did do one earlier.
We
by
did.
the way. We did Downhill Racer.
Downhill Racers, but this is another one. This is one that was directed by Arthur Penn, and it's a very good film. It's one that at the time did not get a lot of talk, but has since sort of come back in reputation, and it is Night Moves.
We knew about it because Joe was looking it up to see what Gene Hackman movie could be in Criterion, and he saw that there's only 3 in the Criterions: Downhill Racer, Royal Tenenbaums, and this one. And I was like, I'm pretty sure. I'm hoping he doesn't do Royal Tenenbaums.
You don't strike me as a Wes Anderson type of guy.
No. This to me, this is the best of those 3.
So this is Night Moves with Gene Hackman, not Night Moves with Christopher Lambert.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Wow, was that a remake?
No, he just did. His was Night with like a K, and it was.
Night Moves.
And it had something to do with. It was like in the early
That
'90s.
sounds like a chess thing. Night Moves.
Well, I think he was like a chess guy or something. I don't know. I remember back in the day at the video store. It was out long time ago.
And this is, I think this is Melanie Griffith's debut, as I recall.
Melanie Griffith.
Well, you'll like that because I think she's like 16 or 17 in this.
Wow, why would I like that?
Because she
I
looks
wouldn't like that.
very pretty. That's why. That's why she was hired.
I know.
Rule number 1: it's got to be 18.
Yeah.
That's rule number 1.
Yeah.
She wasn't
anyway,
in this.
So I was, I heard a story real quick before we go into watching the movie.
And James Woods, too.
I heard that Melanie Griffith always got mistaken for Meg Ryan. And you know what she would do? She would, if people came up and asked for her signature as Meg Ryan, she would sign it as Meg Ryan instead of telling people. So there's a bunch of people out there that have Meg Ryan's signatures from Melanie Griffith.
It's so weird because they do not look at all alike, in my opinion.
Well, I like both, so I'm okay with that.
Anyway, we will be back in a few minutes to talk about this film.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Okay, we are back. So, what did you guys think of Night Moves?
Joe first.
That was a damn good film.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah, I'd the scenes in the middle when they went to Key West. I know we'll get into the whole story. I'd seen those recently in the past couple of years. It was on like late night or something like that on one of the channels, and I saw pieces of that, and I didn't know what. And I saw the movie many years ago, but I didn't remember anything really about it.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it again.
Just a couple of those scenes at in Key West when he was there. I remember those, but not in the whole context of the film in its entirety. But this was like I said, a damn good film.
Takes some twists and turns, and I think when this originally came out, I think some people just didn't quite get it because there are a little too many characters and a little too many twists and turns. But I liked it because the noirs of the late 60s and early to mid 70s were really kind of dark and kind of like Chinatown, and you get the feeling that no one's going to walk away clean from any of these films, and they don't.
Well, the only thing I didn't like about it was like some of the names were very similar to each other. Like there's like a Harry and Harv or something like that, and I was just like, which one's which? Like
Merv Harmon
Harv or something like that, and and so I was like, what? Who is who exactly? Like I know, there's a lot of characters, and there's like 2 or 3 different plots going on, or whatever. So
do you think that might have been done intentionally to cause some confusion too?
Maybe to give you more ideas
Levels.
of more people to like more red herrings
and giving the Mosby character a chance to, because he's part of pretty much all of them, whether he wants to be or not, as a sort of way of explaining himself and his character and his motivations and some of the things about him. I was reading inside the little booklet about Arthur Penn and how he's kind of a demythologizer, and that's kind of what he was doing here. You know, they talks about, there are a couple of scenes where they're making fun of him or trying to make fun of him because he's a private eye, and he's like, "Oh, hit me like Sam Spade would."
No.
Where, you know, in the books, the private eye doing stuff like this would be one thing, but in real life as in through this movie, it's a much dirtier business that's not black and white, and there's different levels of stuff going on, and he's finally coming to see that in the course of this film, and he's becoming disenchanted with it, and yet he still ends up getting tantalized by the events that happens, to the point where he's not even getting paid anymore, and he has to figure out what is going on, and he ends up chasing it all the way down to Florida again on his own money, and he finds out the hard way.
Oh, are you meaning to tell me that lady didn't give him extra money to go down to after all the stuff he said to her?
Yeah, she basically told him to like bug off.
Yeah.
Not only that, but I'm pretty sure, even though the movie doesn't tell you, but she's got to be the one to tell Tom, who ends up, spoiler alert, coming after her in the end.
Well, okay.
After
So
him.
by the way, there is going to be lots of spoilers in this, because there's no way
really
we
no
could
way,
do this.
yeah.
There's no way to talk about this movie without having the spoilers, because the best parts are the ending of the movie.
So definitely
pretty
pause
much,
it here, go watch it, then come back. And
Yeah.
now after this,
I don't know if it's on HBO Max or whatever, but I'm sure it's somewhere.
Because she is connected to all of them, and she's also the woman that hires him.
She's not connected to the wife.
Well, no, not to his
Right.
wife. No.
So that storyline is completely separate than
Right.
That's just a relationship, like, kind of tells you where he is in his life, but like all the rest of the stuff, yes, that's all connected to the wife or the ex. I don't know.
Arlene.
Yeah, but is she divorced to Tom? So she's divorced to Tom. I was guessing that because he was in Key West or whatever. Like he was not in California.
And remember, she was talking about how he was, now he was running some shitty little thing down in Florida, and she was being dismissive of it. Well, it wasn't. He was running rare archaeological artifacts that were worth hundreds of thousands, possibly even $1 million down there, and she was getting part of that. She wanted part of that, and that's kind of where the whole deli thing came from.
Why did that come from that?
Because, he obviously, I guess she figured out that he sort of liked her, and so she had no problem using her, up until a point at least anyway. And
Well, okay, but then she was like, because he said, "What about Tom?" Right? And then she was like, "Well, what about Tom?" And he was like,
Oh, yeah,
"Well,
she was playing
hold
dumb.
on, I know." But then he let her, she let him fly out there. She was stopping the investigation basically at first by telling him she didn't think anything was gonna happen. It was anything had to do with Tom. And Tom, he was the one who had her. So
Well, you notice he even says, when she says, "Did you have any trouble bringing her back?" And it's like, "Oh no, it went a whole lot easier than I expected it would."
which it wasn't.
Yeah, well,
It wasn't, but yet it kind of was, because some of the dramatic pull, and we stopped and talked a couple of times during the film, but how her character Deli, she was supposedly going around from guy to guy, drug, all these different things, and then she just ran off down there, and she finally came into. She tried to, I won't say seduce Hackman's character, but she tried to flaunt her appearance, thinking it was going to get somewhere, and it didn't. But anyways, he built almost a father-daughter bond with her. And,
she's 16 years old and doing all these promiscuous things.
I'm hesitant to say sexual things.
She's been used though by the mother a lot. The mother knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Right, and so does the stepfather. At first, I guess apparently at first didn't try anything until the daughter just there's that one bit where he's like, there ought to be a law about it. We all said there is.
There is.
And the thing it is,
Including Gene
the other
Hackman.
thing we all thought of is we were like, oh yeah, it's got to be James Wood. He's always playing a sleazy character. Turns out James Wood's character is actually exactly who he says he was. He was just a guy who was trying to help Deli, and he ends up getting killed for it.
Well,
Yeah,
what was he just helping her? I mean, he was also, involved in doing some sketchy stuff.
Well, it turns out they were all involved with the whole stuntman part of it, which is weird. I don't know why you would let the daughter get part of that.
So can you answer me this one question? So if Tom killed Deli at the end, how did that even happen? He was in Florida. So how did Deli die?
I think he had it set up. I just don't think it was...
I think Quentin messed with it. They showed him coming from behind the car after the record. Or prepping for the car.
I think somebody did. I just don't think it was Quentin who did it.
So we never found out who.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a...
This is why he was saying he doesn't really feel like he solved anything. It just kind of fell on him.
See, I thought Quentin was involved, at least involved in knowing of her getting taken out, whether somebody else was in it.
What his sin was is he was the one who got the other dude killed.
Oh yeah, with the plane.
Right.
Yeah.
That was him.
Yeah. Well, was that an accident?
I don't think so.
Why did he murder him then?
Because he was having an affair with Deli, amongst others.
Well, which one was having an affair? Tom or
Marv?
Well, no, that first stunt guy.
Yeah, the pilot.
That was the one that was at the bottom of the sea. Okay, so so you just that was a loose end that Tom wanted to tie up, and then when it got discovered that was him, they didn't want to. They knew that they would have a connection to Tom. Didn't want that, so that's why they didn't call the Coast Guard.
And that's why he kills Quentin, because Quentin knows.
But even with killing Marv, there's also could be. I mean, there was a tangible reason to kill him. But they could also be like, well, that's one less person to get the money.
Yeah, remember when he comes in and you see the body in the water with the dolphins? That was... Oh, that's right. Thought it was Paula.
That's right. We thought it was Paula first, and you said that was Quentin. But so Quentin went down to Florida too?
When he left on the bike, we didn't see where he went. Well, it turns out that's where he went.
There was a reference of him going to Florida or something like that, I thought. I thought there was, but
so he knew where Tom was too. All of them was too.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, Quentin was in on was in on it. Not, I think he had something to do with Deli's demise. So.
I think he did kill Deli, and then he came down to Tom to kind of tell him like, we need to.
See, I don't think he did, just because he doesn't have a motivation to. I think he really liked her.
But then who killed?
Because that's the reason why he killed the other guy.
But did he maybe not motivation, but then maybe he was jealous because all these other people was messing with him.
I'm gonna go with my first guess. It was that guy.
Ask your buddy ChatGPT. He'll tell you.
I can't.
What are you gonna ask later?
We're gonna ask
when he's not busy.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I think it's the other guy. I think it's the best friend of the driver who with the trailer and everything. That guy who was good friends with them, who's the driver. He killed.
Yeah, that was him. That was him at the end.
Well, what do you mean?
He's the guy who's flying the plane at the end who's shooting at him.
Yeah. So I think he's the one who killed Deli. Right? So I think he killed Deli.
Yeah, I think so.
And
but he probably had Quentin's input in something, and I think there might have been something together.
You are just anti-James Woods. You're like, he's in there somehow.
Well, his character, he had reason to, and he had
motivation,
and he seemed very jealous of her too, because he was very hot-handled just anytime.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's just how he was.
Maybe he really liked her and saw that she was going around between all these different other guys and stuff like that. Supposedly,
he's like the cliche mechanic guy that gets hot-headed and gets into fights or whatever, and I'm like, dude.
This was before he got known as being that type of character, but it's like, I mean, this was one of his earliest roles.
Yeah, and it's funny because these little things sort of tell you about the characters. Like the guy who ends up in the bottom of the water in the plane, who gets killed first. He's a sleazebag because when you meet him and he's in the bar, and the first thing he's like, yeah, it's always kind of fun to be making it with the mother and the daughter. That gives you an interesting perspective. And we're like, what the fuck? Who thinks like that?
Marv Ellman,
whoever is scumbag. That's who thinks like that.
Yeah. It was.
But then he got into like that fight with the kid or whatever. The kid came in, they like bumped into him or something. Is that the same guy?
That's the older guy. That's the older guy that was with him.
Okay. The Joey or whatever. The driver.
And that is the problem. Is there's too many characters.
Yeah,
and
they sort of all blend in together.
Yeah.
Well, to me, I think that this is going to be something that upon a second and third viewing,
it is.
That's right. Because that's right. Because I mean, that happened like basically 2 hours ago in a way, and so it's kind of hard to remember. But the guy, but you're right, because the guy that said, "Oh, it's good to make it with whatever," looks over and goes, "I gotta go, guys. There's a girl at the bar that I'm gonna go hit on.
It's waiting for me to buy her a drink or something. Somebody's got to buy her a drink."
And then he goes and does it, I guess. And I'm just, it's like, wow, there's way too many characters, and like all of a sudden you're like, who likes who? What's going on here? Like it just doesn't. Well, that's my problem with the movie. It's just too all over the place.
Well,
in that.
But that's what a lot of those noir films, the black and white films of the 30s and 40s, really had going. It's like if you really watched it. I mean, to me, the Bogart films. I mean, it's like there's so many different things going on, and it's like, and that's meant to confuse you at the same time that it's done in such a stylized way that it truly ultimately will make sense. And maybe I didn't get it all right now, but on a second or third viewing, it's going to be more received.
There's a sort of incestuous sort of thing going on with a lot of these noir films, in that all of these characters are somehow mixed up with each other. I think those with the 70s ones, it's not just more symbolic; it's more actual gritty sex shit going on. And
they had the whole Hollywood backdrop inside there that was interwoven in there with the Warner Brothers reference, different things. And then
I kind of almost expected Tarantino's stunt guy from the Hollywood movie to come walking in any second and say, "Hey, wait a minute, I can do that stunt."
Yeah. Oh, you mean Brad Pitt?
Yeah.
In Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Yeah. I was also thinking at first, you were thinking, because there's the other, there was Quentin Tarantino did another stuntman movie with Kurt Russell.
Oh, yeah.
The Death Proof. And he's stuntman Mike, and he was badass, because Kurt Russell's always badass. Like, you can't make a movie.
Even when he's 75,
can't not be.
He cannot be, he's the dude, no, he's not.
But there's a lot of references in here too that really caught my attention. I love the Hollywood stuff that kept happening. There also was Hackman's character was a football player, a former football player. So he had the Raiders reference and all that stuff. He went to a USC football. Yeah, I'm sure you did. It's like that. But they made a reference, and I don't know if you guys caught it or not, but they made a reference to Alex Karras in it, which was funny because Alex Karras. But Alex Karras ended up being married to Susan Clark in real life after this. I don't know if they were knowing each other then.
He went off to be a TV star.
Yeah, and together, I think, weren't they both in the show together? But they both were in Porky's together. Alex Karras and Susan Clark. So.
What was that? I forget his. It was like he was like a preacher or something. I forget what it was.
Yeah. So wait, which was Susan Clark?
She was his wife, Hackman's wife.
With the squarish haircut.
Yeah. And you said that she was the one that was in Porky's.
Yeah, she's in Porky's. She's the one that's they go to the outhouse and they get the black guy to come in.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen Porky's?
No, I think Paul knows that. I've never seen Porky's. Never was a thing for me as a kid, and
definitely I won't say bottom of the barrel type of raunch humor, high school comedy, but
I remember
there's a lot of stuff in it. But
I remember your story from Christmas Story where you went to see it, and
the kind of movie that won't be made today. But frankly, this movie ain't going to be made today either.
Well, and it can't be made today. It's too.
Not in America, anyway.
No, it's just one of those movies where it's just too cliche now or whatever in a way. Like, even though it's different and whatnot, people just wouldn't want to make.
Well, I'm thinking mostly of the Melanie Griffith stuff.
Well, that would be a problem. But I mean, I think that it's fine if they could make a movie in this vein. They would just have to curb some of the references that some of the different things.
Well, I mean, okay. So basically every guy in that movie except for Gene Hackman was a freaking pedophile, character, because a lot of them were having sex with a 16-year-old. This is
South Florida. Come on.
Hey, Hollywood. Hey, I was living down there then. I was all of 2 years old at the time.
Florida, man. Come on.
It was even was it Oakland, brother, where your Raiders are.
But that was Gene Hackman, not the others.
Well, no, the other guys were.
They made reference to other football players. They even went to the game, but that was L.A. Yes.
Yeah, that was L.A.
But Hackman's character, I mean, in being a lead, he has to be in a way. But he was really flawed. He had a lot of.
He did. He was
a lot, but at the same time, he learned about himself, and he really arced his character.
The thing is, what I
Found
like
himself.
about him is that he's always seems to be this close to losing it, but he doesn't. He's this close to like going too far with one of the ladies, or even Melanie Griffith's character, but he
Well,
doesn't.
he did go too far with the one girl.
Well, that's
did.
not run too far. I think.
Well, he was
I
on.
think-
He,
didn't
he
he
was in
have
a.
sex with her?
Yeah, well, he was in a broken marriage at
But
that point.
he,
So
he didn't beat up the one guy you think he was going to.
So you're basically saying he didn't go Popeye Doyle from Fury.
Right. Yeah. No. He was not Popeye.
He
Doyle.
didn't resort up to French Connection standards.
He didn't say inappropriate things like he did in that movie where,
Whew.
yeah. His character was very good. Like, not
was
like,
great.
not like a character like his character was very good. Like, he was a very good person. He was, even though he was, and I think we were discussing it briefly, and I said I want to save this for the podcast. But my thing with his character is he got there. His job as a private eye, which even his wife makes fun of at points. Everybody kind of is telling him, like, I can get you another job. This job's not paying you enough or whatever, like, this isn't a good job for you. He enjoys doing it at first, right? Until this case. This case was the one that broke him because he had to go find a 16-year-old girl, which I think he thought this was going to be an easy peasy,
Right.
Lemon squeezy kind of case.
It was black and white
Right.
until it became gray.
Yeah, until he had to go. First off, he went to go see Quentin. Found out that they were down in New Mexico, shooting
film.
shooting a film. So he went down there, met up with his friend, found out that she's somewhere else. Somehow or another, the name got brought up of the stepfather, so he decided to go down to see him in Florida. Lo and behold, she's there. So he thinks, I could just take her home or call the cops. Something's going to happen. I could just do this.
Nope.
And it becomes one tragic night of them going and diving. And, Deli, which is Delia, finds the dead body. And she is, like, shocked and traumatic and all this stuff. And kind of reminds me of Jaws, like the scene where they're...
That's what I said with the skin.
Yeah, the head and everything, and all this stuff, and it's just weird.
It was Bruce the Shark.
Yeah, it was we saw things eating eyeballs. It was pretty nasty, but with that being said, and then all this stuff afterwards, it was done. He was done, but he still had to finish the case. Like he knew.
Well, he was breaking.
Here's the other thing too, and I don't know if you picked this up. I think Deli knew exactly who it was, and that's one of the reasons why she's upset. And that's why she called, and she was about to tell him, and he turns it off.
Right.
Because his wife came in. Mm-hmm. And now I even said something at the moment that I was like, they threw that fish hook out and they cut it right at the right time. They pulled it back on you.
Yeah, and they knew that we knew, the audience knows that whatever she was just saying right there was the most important thing in the whole thing, and we're never gonna hear it.
And that's the thing is because that would have been he would have gone to her. He would have tried to ask her more of it. And maybe by doing that, it would have saved her, and she might not have gotten in that car. I
don't know. Maybe. But I don't think she knew that, like, it, unless she was saying, like, no, because she wouldn't have gotten in the car if she knew that guy was a part of Tom's thing, right?
Well, that's just it. We don't know how much she knows. We know, I think she knows who it is, but I don't think she understands that who's killed her, or who's killed him, rather. I don't think he's gotten that. No. Although he did say that they understood that he knows that that Quentin did it. I don't know if he thinks that Quentin did it for his own reasons or if he was hired by Tom to do it. There's just a lot going on.
And then we haven't even touched on the marriage, like, falling apart, really, because he spies on his wife, and I was confused because at first he looked happy, and then all of a sudden he was spying on her, and I was like, what's going on? And we find out that she was with the guy she was supposed to be with and another guy, and then she leaves the guy she's supposed to be with for the other guy, and that makes him go and spy. But what we don't see is that he goes to the house and sees them having sex. I don't think. I never remembered that part. And so that's what confused me is like then later
he followed her. And
he's been following them throughout the film.
Yeah.
And he's
Call me Harry one more time, I'm going to make you eat that cat.
but he's so good at his job. But the thing is it became a job, and he didn't really think of the emotional play out of anything until he saw Deli getting beat up. Or being chased around after when he dropped her off, and he was like, okay. And at
all
that
that
point,
shit hit the fan.
And he was just like, what the hell am I doing here? What's my life? What
did I bring, like, because he was wondering about that, because he took his he basically found Deli, brought her back, just like his job. You know, his job, like when you're a lawyer, you defend somebody that might be a bad person, but that's your job, is to defend that person to the best of your ability, whether or not they're bad or good. It doesn't matter. That's your job. When you go to pick up a girl, and bring her back to the house, it doesn't matter what that lady does after you bring the daughter back. The lady could kill the daughter for all you care, right? That's not your job. However, when you get emotions involved in it and you care about the person that you're supposed to bring back home, like he did with, and I think...
Or even caring about himself. I think at that point, he's no longer interested in just writing stuff off. I think he's now involved, and he understands life isn't just black and white.
He found himself when he helped save Deli from the situation.
I don't think that was when it happened, though. I think he liked her and felt connected to her at the time that she threw herself at him and said like the shower and all that stuff.
Yeah, but he was like no.
And he said no.
But when she had when she had that nightmare, and she had that moment of that nightmare, and he went and he consoled her, that was a father-daughter.
Yeah, and because they connected, because they both talked about their shitty backgrounds, their shitty parents.
And on top of that, he acted like a father most of the time, even to the point where she said that you're, like, I think she said something about that, like, father, thing. So he and her had a bond together, because if he had actually slept with her, like all the other disgusting men and everything, she would have just thought him as one of those guys.
Yeah, she was like the daughter he never had, and he was like the father that she never had.
Yeah, she never, because even her stepfather had sex with her. Like, her stepfather didn't even have control. So once that happened,
they just wanted to get her out of there. They were just like, because I think they still cared for her, the stepfather, whatever degree they.
Well, at that point,
they just wanted to get her away.
Get her out, because their real interest was getting the money from the artifacts, from the stolen artifacts.
Now, Hackman's character was able to deduce from so many different things, because that was part of his job, his career of being a private eye. But how about Paula did she play him, or was she being real with him?
She played him.
Or was it both? Because it seemed like she was genuinely had something for him, but she played him because it came back, and he's like no, whatever you say.
She played him. I think she probably had some interest in him, but
because she was just like, I just want a ticket to the next place.
She's kind of a crazy character, so
she's like, I just want a bus ticket to the next place.
She had the worst death in the whole movie.
I know. Yeah, that was bad. Well, drowning's not much fun either.
Yeah, drowning's not fun, but like,
at least hers was instant.
Yeah,
maybe.
probably.
Yeah. I mean, you hated to see her go. She didn't deserve that.
I mean, she's not a nice person. She's done some really horrible things, and a lot of it was to survive, so you do feel kind of bad for the survivor thing. But then again, I mean, she could have left at any time with Tom.
And she was turning her other cheek to seeing what Deli was up to. And what was happening to Deli.
No, because there's that one point where the stepfather, Tom, is like trying to basically get Deli, when Deli's freaking out, to get Deli to stay with him in his room and stuff like that. And she's like, no, he needs to go, and you need to go over there, and she needs to go to her room.
But she said no at that spot, but did she say no all the other times?
Probably not.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, she was the more this is sitting on me, the more I'm realizing, man, she was actually kind of bad.
She was bad at first.
She was gray. I think she was gray. I think she had both bad and good to her.
I think she had. Yeah, I agree, because I think once he came into the light, and started showing her, like, he turned her down. He was, he seemed like a much nicer person. I think that brought the nicer.
And remember,
side
she
to
even
her.
says, the reason I'm with Tom is because there's nobody else here who's, nice even when they're drunk. Everybody else is a shitheel. So,
But that's not love. That's just self-preservation. So,
of course.
Right. But that's the point.
But I don't think she. I think the more that I'm thinking this, I'm like, okay, well, she let stuff happen there. It's like, I see a lot more bad than good. And what was really her end game, taking him out to the water to get the thing out? I mean, was it just to get him out there so where he was going to get shot down?
I think she was going to get a piece of that money, and that she was going to take it and go somewhere else and try and have a better life.
But you don't think she
could
was
never have left,
but you don't think she would have killed Harry? Got Harry?
Oh no,
killed?
I don't think she was interested in killing anybody. I think she just wanted the money so she could get out.
Right, because she was going to get a piece of that, whatever that was, that Tom would have gave her. But I wonder.
Of course, for all we know, Tom would have killed her too.
I probably. I mean, he killed Quentin.
Well, he
you
did.
know.
I don't know.
He set it up for her to die, or for his own stepdaughter to die. Just
And the thing is, you
quiet.
don't see it, but you have to wonder when he's in the water and he's taxiing towards the boat. He had to have seen her, and just didn't care. Because who else would it have been? Because he's not. Hackman's character is not rated to dive, so it has to be her.
Mm-hmm.
And he's taxiing for ways. He's got to see her, and just doesn't care and just runs her over. Of course, it doesn't end well for him to do that. But
now there's some movies it's like where these questions could make you frustrated for the movie in general, and I think maybe that might get a little bit here. But for me, I think it's done so well on so many things that this is, like I said, repeated viewing is going to more. And I'm wondering the background on this film. And I don't know if you know this or not. Was it based off of a book or something?
I don't recall.
I don't think it
If you know
was.
anything.
I don't think it was.
I'm just wondering if there's like.
Here, hold on. Let me see. Can I see the inside the thing? Like the it says all that stuff in here. So on the back it says credits. It's just written by a guy named Alan Sharp. It's not. It doesn't have a. It's not based on a book.
Just curious because it just seems like there just seems so much depth around each of the characters, and it's
it was very well done.
Yeah.
Music is really good too, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that.
you got that 70s vibe.
70s jazz kind of stuff.
What
It
else
was really
has
good.
Arthur Penn done?
Oh God, he's the one who did Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah, money.
Okay.
He did a bunch of stuff. He was kind of like a big deal for a little while, but he didn't make a lot of films. But they're mostly good, at least up into 80. I don't know much after that. 70s is kind of when he really shined, as I recall.
So directing.
Dead of Winter, yeah. Target, Missouri
Little
Breaks,
Big Man,
Night
Alice's
Moves.
Restaurant.
Little Big Man's a great film.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Alice's Restaurant,
Miracle Worker. Yes,
Miracle
there's-
Worker.
Alice's Restaurant?
Mm-hmm.
Is that where the movie or TV show Alice comes from?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, 1970.
69, 70.
So there's a flow in that one?
No. This is. I think this is something else.
Yeah.
I think the Alice doesn't live here anymore. It's the one that
Oh yeah, isn't that Scorsese or something?
Yeah, I believe so. I think this is a cinematic adaptation of Arlo Guthrie's classic story song. But yeah, he's done a number of really good films.
Yeah,
in this.
Little Big Man is on my list for film freaks.
That'd be a good one for film freaks.
Is that a Western?
Yes,
That's what I thought.
Yeah, Hoffman and
but it's a very different one.
Faye Dunaway are the two. Martin Balsam, they're the main ones. Richard Mulligan, interesting.
Yeah.
When did you see this first?
Years ago, I think it came out on HBO, back when I was in high school.
That's funny because like when we were always talking on Hollywood Boulevard podcast, a number of the movies that Alfred brings to the table and stuff like that, it's like, oh, this was on my Cinemax or HBO viewing that came through all the time. So.
Is that the theater or HBO or Cinemax and stuff? I never. Our family never had HBO or Cinemax because we just didn't pay for that stuff. So, we never watched unless it was like a free weekend or whatever. Remember when they used to do that,
Oh,
like
yeah.
the free weekends? They don't even do those anymore. I don't think.
And usually later at night is when the more adult-oriented stuff would come out.
So you didn't see this in the theaters then?
No, I was too young.
So yeah, you said your first. I was like, I remember. I think I saw this like high school or something like that, and I was nowhere near ready to appreciate this film.
Right.
We made a joke or something like that. It was like just in general talking about how when we're younger and it's like have all this stuff in life or something like that, and it's like it's so much better younger, and it's like, well, as you're older, sometimes you have to a little bit more mental clarity and stuff like that to appreciate different things and understand things, and that's the case with this because
Right.
there's
And
so much more going on.
I remember seeing it and thinking this isn't like your standard detective story of the time, other than say the noir ones, where you go this and it gives you a clue, and you go to this. Instead, you're getting more and more questions, and you're getting more and more issues, more and more clouds in your vision.
Wait, so you said you saw this like 30 years ago, right?
Yeah,
And stuff. So
it's been a good while.
you bought it but never watched it?
Well, I just got it recently.
Oh, okay. So it's
So
part
remember
of
the sale that you were telling me about at
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble? Yeah. So I was going to have this on our haul, but we didn't do the haul. So
Wait, when Barnes and Noble sale? Was that November or was that just recent?
whenever the last one was, that's when I got it.
The last Criterion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Actually, no. This was on sale at the same time as the other one.
The Paramount one.
Paramount, yeah.
Okay.
This was like 30% off or something. It wasn't.
Oh,
half.
for real?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know they
that's an
did
interesting
Criterion.
cover.
Mm-hmm.
So is that like somebody looking in?
It's funny, you didn't even
Glass
know it was a
bottom.
Blu-ray. You didn't care.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, you didn't care whether it was a Blu-ray or a DVD, right? Like, you're just like, I want that movie.
And then I didn't know that this was released by Criterion at all, much less on a Blu-ray. So
Yeah.
when I saw it, I was like, oh, cool. Because I didn't actually see any of the Paramount stuff that I was going to get.
You didn't want anything from there?
I didn't see anything I didn't either already have or really
Yeah.
wanted.
The only
Gladiator was the only one, and I couldn't remember if I had it or not.
The only thing I cared about was I got the Zucker Brothers, ZAZ trilogy of Airplane, Top Secret, and Naked Gun. Figured, why not get all three of those in one? And it was cheaper, whatever, 50% off. So I was like, fuck it.
Yeah,
So 4K.
Top Secret's going to be getting. I'm planning on watching that tonight.
My dad and I tried watching it. He did not like it. He liked some of the jokes, but then after a while, he got bored.
Well, I was looking over stuff, and I with his recent passing, I think that's because
Abrams.
well,
Yeah.
there's with
Val Kilmer?
with Val Kilmer, because I remember seeing that in the theaters as a kid. So
No, that's
I
that
saw
is
it too.
right though.
Yeah.
Jim Abrams just died and Val Kilmer, so two people from Top Secret already passed this year. Fuck,
yeah, so
that sucks.
But looking back to this one, I mean, Hackman did this in '75, so that would have been right about the time of
73, I think, is when they
'73
shot
when
it.
they shot it. So they shot it probably after Conversation, and it was probably after French Connection Conversation, then probably this, and maybe something else was around there. French Connection 2 was probably right after this.
I wonder
those are ones off
if
the top.
Gene Hackman was asked to be in Jaws.
Was he?
like,
He would be Quint.
I think he would have. He could have been Quentin, or he could have been
He could have
Brody.
been. I would say I'd seen his Brody.
Yeah, I would have seen him as Brody. But I wonder if he was, because, at that time, he was a big name. But the thing is, Steven Spielberg was like a first-time director, really. He had maybe done like one or two other things, but he had not really been a big name yet. And a lot of those big actors still to this day won't act with new first-time directors, because they're like, you haven't done shit. We're not going to work with you. And that's how Steven Spielberg was treated on the set as Jaws. Like, they're like, we're older than you, man. What the fuck? We don't want to be bossed by you, And so I think Arthur Hiller, having done like a ton of movies before, this movie, probably helped.
Well, that because I'm pretty sure, like I said, he was in Bonnie and Clyde. It's been a long time since I watched it. I'm pretty sure he has a minor role in Bonnie
Yeah, he had
and
a
Clyde.
small role, I think.
Yeah, but
So-
he was their second, like he had third billing basically.
Right.
Yeah, so I was looking at Hackman stuff around that time. I mean, I was after French Connection, Cisco Pike. I just saw that in the past year. Prime Cut, which you guys just talked about recently.
Side
Cut was
Side
good.
Adventure, Scarecrow.
Scarecrow.
I think he said Scarecrow was like one of, if not his favorite role.
Yeah, that's another what do you call it? Film Freaks.
Yeah, and then
kind of
Conversation, which is just a brilliant.
I'll let
film.
you have those.
Yeah, the
Young Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. So
I did take French Connection from him. You know.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
so I
okay.
mean, there's just a,
Well, you got
He's got plenty of movies. That are
you
good.
got plenty of movies to pick from, dude.
I do.
yeah, so
Yeah.
definitely during a very strong part of his career.
Yeah,
But yeah,
we
it's
do miss him. a
part
lot.
of a really good group of '70s films.
Yeah, one other thing for him, it said that a lot of people are saying that's a lot of people's favorite role of his in the last few years.
Which one?
I guess this one. They're saying this one's really starting to take get a lot more.
Well, I mean, he was a really
buzz around
good
it.
guy, but he was rough around the edges. You know, he did. You know, he was a little hot headed. He fought James Woods a lot. You know, and
He,
shit like
he
that.
brings nuance. It's just like, one of the reasons I love him in Unforgiven is that clearly he's a villain, and yet at the same time, there's a lot of parts to him that you can't help but like. You know what I mean? It's just wrapped up in a character that's not good. He's
Right.
kind of evil.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting that in this movie, you're saying how he's good and he had some nuance and stuff, but he was an ex-football player, and usually you think the ex-football players are, in general, the general stereotypical thing is that they're more hot-headed and
Dumb.
and he's definitely not that. I mean, he's a private detective, so I mean, he's solving stuff that people usually don't see. And
Yeah.
stuff, so
I don't know how long he's been a private detective.
Although he's not really the Sam Spade,
No.
Sherlock Holmes type. He's more, I follow you around and take pictures because you're cheating on your wife.
yeah. Well,
That kind of
I
thing.
think he was only in that role as a private detective for like maybe 5 years, give or take, because they made some reference to his playing career being not too far off, like in the past 10 years.
Yeah, he was only 40.
less than 10
So
years.
you were saying before, like a lot of the the old 50s ones were different, or 40s or whatever, the noir films
40s.
of that time were very much were different, and a lot of it was because a lot of the things were kidnappings, right, and stuff like that. This
Double
person
crossings.
kidnapped and double crossings and all this other. This had a little bit of double crossing and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that and whatnot, but it had but it wasn't like a typical double cross where you would be like, oh my god, they double cross. It was more like, oh shit, that person did that, like told the cops on them. or
Yeah,
something.
we'll have to do another one for Film Freaks. We'll have to do Double Indemnity. It's one of my favorite
Well, that's a
films.
great film.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Oh,
also on
Criterion,
Criterion, so
Yeah,
that could be a
yeah.
Criterion as well. I have that on 4K.
It's a great film.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I have watched, what's the other one? There's another noir movie, but it was like about a woman, and it was she was like a
Femme
mother.
Fatale.
No, she was like the mother of a nasty little child.
Mildred Pierce.
Mildred
Oh, no.
Pierce, yeah.
okay.
God, I was like, that movie got me, man, because I was like, why do you like that teenage daughter? She's such a bitch.
I think I got that as part of like it was Joan Crawford's.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
it was
Joan
part of
Crawford.
a Joan Crawford box set that I have.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. She does such a great job in that.
Night
movie.
of the Hunter is a noir too.
Yeah, we did that.
Mitchum.
Love that one. That was
So,
fun.
other people that was in this. Do you want to talk anything about the makeup or
Oh,
stuff
go
like
ahead. Jennifer Warren.
that?
yeah.
Jennifer Warren playing Paula.
What else has she been in?
I
She was in a bunch of movies in the 70s.
Ice Castle, Slapshot. No, Slapshot.
Slapshot.
That's right there. A movie called Mutant. Those are the big ones. Some TV shows. I think everybody was in Murder, She Wrote at some point or another. That was going around that time period.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, she was good because I mean, she played her character on a couple different levels. It was multi-level characters. So it's good.
Her and her erect nipples.
Oh god.
She said after what did her character say? If they she got touched as by a teenage boy or when she was younger as a teenager, and they stayed erect for 30 minutes or something.
Jeez.
It's like
And then he kind of blew that in her face, like saying, like, so all the stuff you're telling me, this, your erect nipples.
but the thing is the biting dialogue of that is so vivid. And
Yeah.
it's like and now it's constant through it, and that's obviously.
Yeah, there was
synonymous
great
with
dialogue.
The noir type films that usually have that.
They have great dialogue.
yeah.
That's the point of those things.
Yeah. So next list, Joey Ziegler is character Edward Benz. I'm not really familiar with his stuff from other stuff, but he was in Patton, The Verdict, North by Northwest.
Yeah, I was gonna say
North
that.
by Northwest.
12
which
Angry Men. Ooh.
we were comparing this movie because they have the crop dusting stuff or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, it was like okay, is this going to go Jaws route or is it going to go North by Northwest? We heard as soon as we started hearing that the crop the plane, it was just like, oh, here we go, North by Northwest. There ain't nowhere for him to run though.
Yeah, they did not show any sharks.
Not that he could run anywhere in North by Northwest really either, because it was just an open area.
He had to hide in the.
Initially, I was like, well, it's just a plane. What's it going to do? Well, it's not just a plane. He's got a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he's got that gun. He just.
Yeah. So next up it was Harris Yulin, which I love him from he was the one who played the one that was cheating on.
Yeah, he's been in a bunch of films.
Yeah, I remember him
too.
from Scarface. I mean, that's first and foremost. Then the judge in Ghostbusters 2.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay, that's that guy.
But for me, it is Scarface, where he was he was taking Rip and
He
Tony
was so
off.
terrible in that movie though. Like he goes, but it wasn't his fault. I don't think.
Well, yeah.
But he goes, the Scolari brothers. I gave them the chair.
And the crazy thing is he's still acting,
Yeah,
and he's 88, and he's still going.
good for him.
Good for him.
So some of the other ones I'm not familiar with. Nick, I'm trying to remember which character that was off the top of my head. Do you remember? Well, then there's Janet Ward, who played Arlene. She was the bad mom. she was ridiculous.
She was wonderful. I loved her in that movie. I
yeah,
thought she was so great because she was such a terrible human being. All she cared about was
booze
herself.
hound.
Yeah.
She was in Failsafe.
Yeah.
64.
Who was she in that?
Mrs. Grady.
Oh, she was the wife of
Anderson Tapes. When I was looking at some of the actors and actresses in here, they almost all was in an episode of Kojak too, somewhere along the way, or Rockford Files, which was obviously
Rockford
70s
Files
stuff
is the
there,
big.
so.
My dad
show.
was
Yeah.
used. So, by the way, funny story. When I was born, my dad was out because he had been through 3 other kids. So he's been there at the births or whatever. So he he didn't need to be in the room while that was happening. So he was in the waiting room watching Rockford Files. That was his favorite show.
Surprised
at
he
that
didn't
time.
call you Jim then.
No, I think I was named family member, so I don't think there was a family member named Jim. But
Other people we talked about, James Woods already. I mean, he was great in this. He's always great.
You guys didn't recognize him.
I did.
Well, no, when I saw him before he even pulled the mask off, I was like, this will be a perfect spot for
James Woods.
because leading into that scene, you know that he's getting ready to he's getting seen the first lead he's going for the first lead. Hackman is for the case, so I was like, oh, this would be a perfect spot for Woods.
Well, when Hackman, when they found that he was dead, one of the interviews I remember seeing was James Woods, and he was talking about how Hackman was really nice to him on set, and how he looked up to him and everything, and
because Hackman
treated
was
him well.
he was a megastar
after Hackman was passed away and stuff. James said a lot of nice things about. I did read that. Like he said a lot of really nice things about working with Gene. But I guess was this the only one they worked on together? I'm wondering.
I don't know that they did anything else.
There's probably something really big that we're missing, but
It could be. I can't remember stuff.
The next one, Marv Ellman. He was the bad stunt guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one that
Anthony Costello.
Yeah, Anthony Costello. He passed away really
Just about
young.
all these guys are dead,
Well,
except for Melanie Griffith.
Melanie Griffiths, James Woods still alive. Harris Yulin's still going. Jennifer Warren's still alive. So so it's a decent amount still, considering the movie is 50 years old. And Melanie Griffith, which this is her first film now.
Of course, I don't remember her. She hasn't been in anything in quite a while that I can remember.
The Disaster Artist is the last
She's
thing
in
I
there?
remember her in.
Gosh.
See,
Yeah. That was 2016 or something.
yeah, so it's like I'm sure there's probably something. She took like a 5-year break. A movie called, she didn't narrate it, so that's not acting on screen, but she narrated a film and some TV shows. The High Note about 5 years ago, Disaster Artist. So she's only a movie called Smilf, or a TV show called Smilf.
Yeah.
So she's sort of winded down a little bit.
So, by the way, I did not know that Dakota Johnson is her daughter.
Oh, really?
Didn't know that. Just never looked it up. Never, thought anything of it. But I was watching this interview with David Letterman, and David Letterman was going on about her mom and saying, "I loved your mom," right? And she goes, "I know, my mom loved you." Right? And I love you, blah, blah, blah. And so he was saying, like, your mom used to come here all the time. She goes, "I know, my mom gave you handcuffs," to David Letterman and stuff like that. And they were, talking about that. I was like, who is her mom?
No.
I was like, is her mom some, like, random chick that was, like, hanging out around there? So I'll go look it up, and I'm like, she's the daughter of Melanie Griffith and Don Johnson? Okay, that would explain the Johnson part, but, like, that's a combo right there. I love Don Johnson and I love Melanie Griffith. So Dakota Johnson being like the daughter of both of them. I mean,
Don Johnson still hasn't shaved.
And,
I love that guy.
And Dakota Johnson, I think she's starting to get some roles that have. There was a movie she did about a year or two ago that was really good, called Daddy-O. It just all basically is a taxi cab ride with Sean Penn. Sean Penn's driver, and he's driving her home, and they get stuck in different places overnight in New York City. Very much just an interaction between the two of them.
Sounds like a Linklater movie.
Yeah, definitely. But it shows that she's very capable of good stuff.
Although Daddy-O, that title sounds like an Ed Wood movie.
Daddy-O.
Yeah. So let's see here. Who else was there? There's a variety of other. Susan
I
Clark.
think those are
we
the
talked
main
about,
people.
The main ones, and we talked about the director and everything, and so.
But yeah, very, very well done. The crash scene, that was pretty amazing. You jumped at that one, Moody.
Which crash scene?
The plane crash.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't like it because, obviously, like, you're watching it, seeing it get the woman, and
you're like, duck, go under, and he's trying to get to her to say, go under.
Yeah, she can't understand. And then she turns around, and that's the first thing she says, like, oh, it's so terrible. Oh, yeah. You feel so bad for her, because if she had just gone under, she would have been okay, maybe, if she had,
But with her character in the regardless of how you want to say if she's completely flawed or just somewhat flawed, I don't know her survival elements is how she would have really, because obviously her and Hackman wasn't going to get together, because it seemed like Hackman and his wife Susan Clark, those characters made
up, kissed and made up.
Because otherwise, when she was like, "Can't we just keep on floating off? Let's just float off together."
Yeah,
he might have done that.
Yeah,
I don't think he would have trusted her, because remember, I even said, "No, you're crazy."
Yeah,
and you go, "Yeah, there's that."
Yeah,
so, I think,
because it's like, because he'd always be like, "Is she being genuine or not?" Or and at that point, the ship has already sailed, literally. But so
I don't know. I'd have done
it. So you would let your wife for that random chick?
I mean, Susan Clark.
I mean, if I couldn't repair that.
Well, he could repair that.
But he did.
He did repair it.
Now, he did, but did he really come completely clean? Did he come clean with her about his indiscretion?
Well, yeah.
I know they had that back and forth, but did it really come out? Did he say it clear as day?
Well, he didn't need to. She didn't want him to.
Well, I thought she said something like, I know, or something
yeah,
like that.
She said she didn't want him to, because she didn't want to hear it, because she knew he was allowed to do it, because she did it, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was, it's not like nowadays, like, people go, "Oh, you cheated on me because I cheated on you. Well, you're a horrible person." And I'm like, you both are. I mean, you deserve each other.
In their relationship, I saw how repaired it was at that moment, because flashback to the first time he went to Key West, she was begging him not to go until they could have it out. This time, she took him to send him off.
Yeah, to send him off.
So that evolved to that.
They
level.
were repaired, I think,
to a point at least. Anyway.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
it was always going to be there, but I mean, it seemed like they would have their, I don't say happily ever after.
Yeah, I think he was at the point where he needed to go down and figure this thing out and solve the issue before he could come back and repair what was left of that relationship.
He felt he owed it to Delhi.
What do you think his job was going to be after this? Because he's quitting. Like, there's no way he's going to continue being a private eye after this. What do you think Gene Hackman's character is going to be after this movie?
I don't know. It seemed like he had a couple of offers, but then some of the
But
people
he didn't
were
sound like
offering
he
him,
cared about the offers.
They didn't sound too good. I don't know.
I think he would have just found a, I don't know, just a desk job somewhere or something, working for somebody else, because I think he just didn't enjoy that life.
You think
you know,
he'd become a stuntman?
I don't think he'd become. I
I
think
mean, he had to get over it. He had to rehab his shooting. Plus, he had played football, so he was beat up from that.
Actually, he couldn't because
He got shot in the leg.
no, because the guy that would have helped him out in that thing turned out to be the guy that tried to kill the girl. So
I don't know if he'd want anything.
I don't think
to
he'd
do with
want anything to do with that guy anymore. I don't think he's going to Hollywood. You know, I think he's staying in Oakland.
He probably have a pretty good memoir to write.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting. You know, I'm kind of glad they never made like a Night Moves 2, you know, or anything like that.
Yeah, no.
This wouldn't have been a perfect movie for that kind of thing. But
How much we've talked about all the different angles and all the different stuff going on. This was really a kind of a short film. I mean, it wasn't a long film. It was only an hour 40 minutes. So, and it felt like there's so much in there for such a short time.
Yeah, it's definitely felt stacked.
yeah, there was plot on plot on plot, but like once again, there was multiple plot points. Like there was the relationship stuff, and then there was the mother wanting to find her daughter, and then going down and finding the daughter, and
because she wants to use her so that
Yeah.
she can get the money.
of course, and then when he comes to, you know, talk to her about everything, she's all sunbathing and having drinks and stuff, like stumbling, you know. And
That
shit
lady,
like
she was
that.
a waste.
She was always, she's a terrible human. Like her character.
Yeah.
No, the actress who did it did a wonderful
Yeah, she
job.
did a good job. And I love the chess references and stuff like that in it because he talked about how he studied.
That's where Night Moves comes from.
There you go.
But they didn't put the K on there, which was perfect. Because Night Moves fits on as a title just as it is.
Well,
But-
I think that was a play on words.
Yeah, the
kind of
double
thing.
play on words. But
Yeah.
but I mean, I loved his references. How he's sitting there because a lot of people's like, how do you play chess against yourself? And it's like you're setting something up and you're studying the board from a mindset from thinking your step, 2 step, 3 steps ahead, and that's what a private detective does. So it's like it's perfect as a character trait, showing him doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, and no, it was really well done. It was, I enjoyed it a lot. It kept my interest, which not a lot of movies do. You know, like I start to nod off. Or
Good characters, good acting from pretty much everyone.
Did this do any sort of business? Do you know?
I don't think so. I think this was regarded as a B movie.
Came
As I
out in
recall.
August of '75. Let's see if it doesn't list its box office here. So either ChatGPT will know, or
we can find out later.
yeah,
Maybe we'll post it. I don't know.
yeah.
But it was fun. It was,
That's great. It says the guy that touched her breast was Billy Darnheather. He was the name of Humphrey Bogart's character in Beat the Devil. Sorry
Nice.
to interrupt you.
well, no. Speaking of grabbing breasts, like that was one of the scenes in the movie where what's his name just grabs his wife's Gene Hackman just grabs his wife's tits,
Oh,
but
he
we don't
reached-
know that's his wife.
He
Just
reached right in and
reached right in and grabbed her, and she was on the phone with somebody. And generally speaking, like if some random person did that to you, you would be like freaking out. But she knew exactly who it was. I would hope.
yeah.
Let's hope so, yeah.
Wouldn't it have been funny if she said the other guy's name? And I was just like, "Oh shit, sorry, honey."
Yeah.
You know.
He got nominated for the British Oscar for this role too.
Oh, okay.
Didn't win,
Nice.
but yeah. So
BAFTA.
the BAFTA.
I'm sad that this did not go up for an Oscar.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think this was considered more of a lower, a B movie
Really?
at the time.
Yeah.
That's kind of sucky because it was Warner Brothers and it was Gene Hackman. It should have gone.
Well, Gene Hackman should have had more lead roles, in my opinion. He was a really good film
It's not even
actor.
listed. That's not that one.
We did was it the downhill racer with him, but he wasn't the lead in that. Who was the lead? I forgot.
I forget.
Yeah, it was somebody. It wasn't Dustin Hoffman, I don't think, but it was somebody in that. You know, somebody big like that. But it was, you know, like he did a. Are you looking up trying to find the?
I was just looking to see box office. It was not a commercial. Yeah.
Although Night Moves was not considered particularly successful at the time of its release, it's attracted views and significant critical attention following its home media releases.
Yeah,
Yes,
so it became a cult.
Yeah, it says the
classic,
film has become a seminal modern noir work from
There's
the
the
70s.
box office down there.
Yeah, it says box office. It was not commercial success. It doesn't say how much it made or it didn't make, but it currently holds an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's given some hope for some of the rating stuff because sometimes you see some of the stuff that gets ratings and you're like, how in the world, but
Well, I mean, anybody can rate. That's the problem. And
Yeah.
if somebody just doesn't like Gene Hackman, they can.
How could you not like Gene Hackman?
Somebody, I'm sure. Everybody, there's, as
Jeez.
Vince Vaughn says in Swingers, there's some people that don't like Vince Vaughn, and Vince Vaughn doesn't like some people, right? So I kind of agree with that. Like, it's sort of like, there's probably some people that don't like Gene Hackman, and Gene Hackman don't like some people, Jealous people, okay? That's it. That's the people who don't like him.
and the 4K Blu-ray edition was just released last year, so.
Oh, it was a 4K. Okay.
Oh, there's a 4K of it too? From who?
Oh, it says the 4K Blu-ray edition was released in March. I don't know if that's this one or if you got the Blu-ray, but maybe not. There's a 4K maybe.
Maybe there's a 4K too somewhere, but
It looked good. This
looked good as
Yeah, it looked good.
was. So I mean, I guess the 4K would look better, but I don't know.
And
You
this
really-
comes with, let's see here.
Yeah.
So it's got a new 4K digital
There we go.
restoration with uncompressed monaural soundtrack plus new audio commentary by Matthew Asprey Gear, author of Mosby Confidential. There's
Nice.
a new audio interview with actor Jennifer Warren. There's an interview with director Arthur Penn from a 1975 episode of Cinema Showcase. An interview with Arthur Penn from the 1995 documentary Arthur Penn, A Love Affair with Film.
Very cool.
The Day of the Director, a behind-the-scenes featurette. There's a trailer, English subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, plus an essay by critic Mark Harris.
Lots of good
I'll
stuff.
definitely pick up if it is 4K on Criterion, I'm picking it up. There's just no way I'm not doing that. But if it's only Blu-ray, I'll pick it up on Blu-ray too. Because I don't know. I might buy the 4K wherever that is.
Yeah, good stuff.
And something that was really, we touched briefly on it, but something that when you made a couple comments on during, and it was kind of very uneasy. There is a moment that they mentioned in this article here. It says Griffith's appearance in the movie garnered particular controversy for one racy nude scene that was shot when she was only 16 years old, though she appeared nude in other films such as Smile, which was released in the same year. That's something that it is definitely uneasy seeing a underage.
Oh, I didn't watch it. Like I was glad I missed it for that, and ended up missing it.
Well, there was
when they were
multiple-
underwater,
yeah,
which
yeah.
might have been a stunt person.
Yeah, there was multiple scenes. I think when she went underwater, I think that was somebody else.
Yeah, I think that was a stunt double.
Body
That was
double.
not. She was outside the boat that went into the water, but then under the water as well. But the scene I think she did was the one where she just took her top off, and it is very awkward seeing. And we talked briefly about that and seeing underage.
But the thing is that it's part of her character, so it's not like it's not like a shower scene that you don't need to be there that you see in all these other films.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
I don't know. Like,
Yeah, the only thing they could have maybe shot it maybe in a way that she took it off and they showed a shot from behind her back. And
Yeah.
showed
Yeah,
her
you
back
could have done that.
you
without
could have
showing
done it. Well, you
anything.
didn't have to
But
show
it's
it.
the 70s,
but-
so
But who's me to sit here and question Arthur Penn and his decision making?
yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a different time. I'm not
Look.
saying that it was right then because it wasn't, but
Like, it just kind of shows you how sketchy Hollywood was and still is.
Yes.
So it's not, to me, I
Well,
don't.
It still is, but it's like I said, you're not. That reason alone is the reason that a movie like this would not be made today. Now, behind the scenes, that's a whole different story. That's
Right, well-
sketchy as hell.
Well, it won't be made today because there's laws and there's child, abuse. I guarantee you, Melanie Griffith's parents signed off on that or whatever and said she could do that. Right? Like, I'm sure there was contracts in place and everything, but the law is the law. There's even a joke about that, in the movie. There's ought to be a law about this. There is.
even throwing the law element, which obviously is tantamount, but the moral line, it's just like, no. It's like, it just, I don't know. But in taking that out of the equation, I mean, it's still, I mean,
But it's not like the movie dwelled on it either.
No,
it was
exactly.
a quick scene. It was over. It was done with.
Yeah.
Well-
and it wasn't like sleazy, and it was just focusing on that. That's
Right.
It was enough to establish her character and who she is, and how she uses herself to get what she wants.
and seeing his response to that from her, he basically was like, did he say something like cover up or something, or here,
I think so.
He in no way, shape was moved in any sexual way, and that showed development of him and her at the same time.
He was more interested in Paula. Paula was the one that he was tempted
Yeah.
by. And you can't blame her because she was flipping gorgeous. She was a little nuts, but as soon as she takes her hair off and that giant cascading blonde hair comes down, I know you had to be like, oh shit, because she looked great.
I was like,
which one of you said? I wonder if she was bald underneath there.
That was him.
No, because that's what she said in the movie.
Yeah.
Because she said in the movie, she said, I bet you thought I was bald underneath this thing, and I was like, I didn't, but I do now. Like I would have thought that if I had, I was pretty sure she had hair. That she was
But then
just
there's
covered
hair with a capital H. It's just shoosh.
like fell down. But I like women with long hair. I mean, typically, not that I don't like short hair women. People still look great. The wife looked great with shorter hair, and everything. But longer hair to me, I don't know. For some reason, that's sexier.
Well, plus, like I said, the way that it happened and it all just sort of cascaded down.
And she did that
visually
thing. She did that thing where they just sort of woman could just brush it to the side,
right?
Too, just that little head tilt thing.
Yeah,
and it worked on him.
So clearly there was another person to be looking at, but Tom has no excuse because she was with him too, but he still chose to mess around with the kid, which was ridiculous.
And the other girl had no self-esteem, so she didn't give a crap, that she just wanted his money. She didn't care about him as a person or whatever. Like
Florida man.
But Deli did, because Deli was thinking she was going to get out of, her mom's, thing. She was going to be, free, basically. And then, of course, there's this big, bad, meanie guy who had, I don't know, had he not been there, would she have found that body? I think if he had just, not said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm done. I can't find your daughter."
It's definitely the point that changes everything.
Yeah,
it changes the trajectory of the story. And
I think she would have been alive.
It can't. Yeah, stuff cannot
be unseen.
Wrap up the way it would have because of that scene.
Now, if he had left her there with Tom and just said, "Fine, you can stay with Tom" or whatever, and went back, she would have been dead there,
most likely.
Just like Quentin. So that's the thing. Like, if she hadn't ever discovered the body and everything, the dead head and everything like that, she would have she would have been fine. So
she was doomed.
But I want to see it again, because I want to see Paula's reactions to the body.
Yeah.
And some of the different things, because seeing her motivation is going to be from a different perspective now.
It's been so long since I've seen it. I need to watch it again too. So
because where each one of these people are now, so it's like if you watch it from the beginning again,
plot-wise, I know what happens. It's just
exactly.
It's the actual details that I want.
Was it you said you hadn't seen it for like 30 years, and you still remember the ending and all that. So I'll probably forget if I haven't seen it in 30 years.
Well, the ending is shocking.
It is pretty shocking.
Yeah, and I didn't see the ending. The parts that I saw that I remembered was from a year or so ago. It was just, when you're just flipping channels in the middle of the night, and it's and some of the stuff's going on. I was like, oh, it's a Hackman film. Oh, cool. And they're in Key West, and I was like, is that Melanie?
And he's one of my favorite actors. Yeah. So when he puts on a really good performance, it really stands out.
And by the time I went to look for it in streaming, it was gone. So
it's probably not there anymore.
Well, you know where you can get it now.
You can get it from Criterion, which we love.
I think Warner Brothers. I think Max has it because, or it comes and goes off there. So, but I gotta own my copy because streaming's cool to a degree, but I gotta.
Once again, it could be gone at any time.
Yep.
So
it's
but yeah, we are. I mean, obviously, we're huge Criterion fans. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a whole show that talks about them. So we do love our Criterion. Continuity Monkey included because he doesn't need to squeak as much.
Nope.
Continuity Monkey took a nap.
Sometimes at all. No,
there was no need.
There was no need for him.
He was like I'm good.
And he was already squeaked out for our Indie Film Cafe episode.
Yes.
No, we did. But no, this one, man, this was great. Oh man, we had a blast.
Yeah, Arthur Penn is no Carl J. Sukanik, but this was okay.
He's no David the Rock Nelson.
No
but
David the Rock Nelson.
But he'll do. We had a fun time.
That'll do, Pig. That'll do.
And Joe was lucky to get a good movie.
I continuity monkeyed myself right out of that first one.
Yeah. Well, Paul was like, "Hey, you can invite him for both," and I was like, "All right, Joe, do you want to go to both?" And he was like, "I think I'll come in at 3:00 for the other."
I'll go see something in the theater.
Poor Jen didn't get the chance.
And instead,
do you think she would have liked it?
This one?
Yeah.
I think so. She would have liked it a whole lot better than the first one, that's for sure.
She would have been like, because you would have said, "Oh, we got a good movie," and she would have looked at you and go, I don't trust you.
But sometimes, even if you escape seeing stuff like that, I went to a movie and I saw one that ended up being a stinker too. So it's like you can't sometimes.
It happens.
But sometimes there's just something, from what I'm hearing, this is ultimate stinker that you had in that other one.
But it's not a stinker in the fun way that we have stinkers.
Yeah.
Trust me.
But this is.
It's just a stinker because it's just a bad movie, or whatever.
I was entertained watching you guys watch it.
Yeah. But this one, you were also entertained.
Yeah, it was a good movie. I'm glad I got to see it again. And sometimes, when you have a space of time, like 30 years, and you watch a film and you remember it well, and then you go back and see it again, part of me is like, God, I hope it's as good as I remember it to be. And then it's like, oh yeah, okay. It's like slipping on an old boot that you loved and you remember why you liked it. But sometimes, every now and again, you'll put on a movie that you liked way, way back in the day, and it's like, why did I like this? Mm-hmm. It's weird.
It's like how the kids are now, so watching some of the stuff, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's the best thing ever." And then 30 years from now, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, this was
not
dreadful."
what I remember it being like.
They'll be like, "I want to go back to the early 2000s or the 1980s or the 90s to get some good movies."
70s, man.
Or
this
70s,
is a
yes.
70s movie. I've kind of told Paul I am not usually a huge fan of the 70s. I've been watching more 70s movies lately.
There's a lot of good
This
stuff.
movie turns 50 this year.
So we talked about Prime Cut. Also, I watched, was it Days of the Condor or whatever?
3 days.
3 Days of the Condor. And then I watched a whole bunch of different... We watched Downhill Racer, which I think was 70s.
Badlands.
What?
Badlands.
Badlands.
That's a great film.
Prime Cut had Sissy Spacek too.
No.
And she was in a sort of similar kind of bad place,
Yeah, and she gets over to Carrie. That's still 70s. So.
Yep, 70s with Carrie. So there was a lot of great, 70s movies, but
Deer Hunter.
it's a little too long for me. Like I watched the whole thing. I watched the whole thing, and after a while, I'm like, this movie could have been cut down. In my opinion.
That's a great film.
Conversation.
Yeah, Conversation's good.
I was gonna say, what is the other?
Oh, we're good. The John Cazale thing. It's like, it's like he's like the only
Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah, he's like the only actor that never made a bad film that's made more than like 4 or 5 films.
Who?
John Cazale.
I don't know. Oh yeah.
Conversation. Right. Deer Hunter. Godfather, and Dog Day Afternoon. It's like.
Yeah, that's...
You know who that is.
Yeah. No,
Serpico.
Yeah, with Pacino, so yeah.
Yeah, there was some great stuff.
From the 70s.
And then, again,
French
Pacino,
Connection?
French Connection.
Yeah.
And then if you get Pacino, like we talked about earlier, and
We haven't
Hackman
even
was
done the
Scarecrow.
Godfather yet. I mean...
Godfather, to me, is too... that's got to be like for like an anniversary or something. Because that's like such... Like everybody
Apocalypse
does the Godfather.
Now,
everybody does
79.
Apocalypse Now.
Really great films.
We haven't done Blade Runner. We haven't
That's
done...
80s,
Yeah, I
man.
know. I love
Blade
Runner.
I know you've been wanting to do it, and I've been thinking about doing it myself if you don't do it. Because,
We're going to do it.
Blade Runner should be a Film Freaks.
That's one of the ones that,
Because I don't think they probably have done a Criterion for that, I wouldn't think.
Oh, no.
No,
They're not giving up the rights to that one.
No.
Warner
We
Brothers.
talked about that because...
Well, Warner Brothers put out so many different versions of it as is. So.
Well, so yeah, we talked about that, that this was Criterion, and then what was the other one we were thinking of that could have been, I think
don't remember.
We were talking about something that would have been a Criterion too, you were saying like Unforgiven. Why hasn't Unforgiven
Warner
been
Brothers ain't going to
Criterion? Yeah, exactly.
they're
So
not gonna let that go.
those movies like that are not going to be, Warner Brothers aren't going to give it up to another person because they know how much people are going to want to see it. So,
Well, is any of Clint Eastwood's stuff on Criterion? That would be.
I shouldn't think so.
Because I mean, most of his stuff's all Warner Brothers, so he probably has that. Because I know they put out those big box sets of his stuff.
is Bonnie and Clyde Warner Brothers too?
Yeah.
Well, Jesus, Warner Brothers did put out a lot of good movies.
Yeah, they did.
Now they put out crap because not anything. They only put out the big market.
Say that about all Hollywood. I mean,
There's some good stuff still.
Yeah, occasionally, but they're not. Most stuff are like indie, like A24 or Neon or something. Those are the good stuff.
or European. There's a lot of
A24's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah,
Neon, with the exception of today's film, was Neon's done some good stuff too. So
yeah, they put out some bad movies.
All right. Well, I think we've wrapped up Night Moves enough. I'm glad you guys got to check it out and enjoyed it.
checkmate.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's
Checkmate.
a shame that we had to lose Gene Hackman. He was getting up in age, but still, it's always a shame to lose.
It's a
lose one
shame
of
when
the
they
great
don't
ones.
die of like natural causes.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know the whole specifics, and I don't want to get into that because there'll be people in the comments.
It's a shame because the other thing is, he had stopped working.
Well, he stopped working 20 years ago.
Yeah, Welcome to Mooseport was like he just didn't have a good experience, and he was just like, that's it, I'm out.
That's not a very good one to go out on.
I know. That's why. I mean, I wish we could have gotten more great performance. out of him.
I don't know. I don't know what he was going through at the time. Because there was seemed like there was some other ones right around that time period that was really good. But
I don't know what he could have done. Like, what roles would he have been good for?
No, I would have found a role for him. Come on.
you write it for him.
You write it for him.
Right.
Gene Hackman's back. He's back, man. All right, we're done. I'm
right.
starting to get into like.
Well, we'll
goofiness.
see you guys next time for another version of Criterion.
Next
Watch.
up, next week is Film Freaks. I'll be there. Unfortunately, Paul was not a part of it, but it's one of the ones that Paul did not want to be a part of. So.
I forget which one.
I'll tell you later, but
Okay.
I don't want to say yet. You guys will be surprised. All right, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Bye.
Bye.
It too crooked. I can't see it.
I just can't do it.
Okay, so
I ain't leaving this in like the last movie we just watched.
was it Sister Teresa the Spanking Nun?
No, because that's the one you would have.